Issue 54. It opens up with a recap that's completely pointless at first, but at least by the second panel gives you some new information. The people in Knothole are no longer comfortable living there because the outskirts of the village is surrounded by an invisible barrier separating it from the rest of Mobius on all sides. And since the only way in and out of Knothole is through the Great Oak Tree Slide, it makes travel back and forth, especially with supplies, that much more difficult. Why would regular citizens even want to travel back and forth from Knothole though? Wouldn't they just stay where they are? I guess medical supplies and heavy stuff that the village would need would be harder to bring there, making it less attractive to live. But it really is going to feel like a waste of a concept if everyone just up and abandons Knothole right after the whole temporal pockets mention thing was introduced to make it hidden from enemies better. It's explained that only one person still lives in Knothole, one who has become so accustomed to the way of the warrior that leaving a city behind was the only real alternative. Sonic's a warrior now? Then we see that Uncle Chuck's instruments are going haywire through I'm not sure what it was at first because the stuff in there was all one color, so I thought it was a TV monitor showing them on the tree. Uncle Chuck then complains that measuring Sonic's speed is too difficult because he accelerates too quickly, which wrecks the machine every time. He should have built a better machine then. I mean, Sonic can't help how fast he accelerates. I like how, while Sally's giving a motivational speech to the public to boost morale, Sonic is bored out of his mind looking at his watch. This is exactly the kind of reaction I'd expect from Sonic in this situation. It's so relatable, he even head desks out of boredom. Then we see a royal airship rocket to the Devil's Gulag. By the way, it's kind of weird to have the word devil in the Sonic comic. Anyways, let me guess. This is Snively's escape, right? Well, no, not really. It's explained that the prison is hidden by a dense bank of steam from the boiling oceans that surround it. Boiling oceans? Well, there's chaos energy all over Mobius. I guess this is just the work of magic overflow. The prison sits on top of a mile-high rocky crag that passes for an island. I really like this. I thought it was just in some boring grassy field. One of the people points out that Warlord Kodos is there and asks what happened to him, but before we can find out, they cut back to Sonic, who at first I thought was still at the meeting, but then it turns out he's alone and Tails and Chuck want to do some more experimenting and find out how fast he can go. They must be really bored because this scene is very pointless. It annoys me that when Chuck shows up, Sonic complains, who invited him? I thought he had forgiven Chuck for not telling him his parents were still alive. It confused me so much that I assumed Chuck was actually Jules at first glance, which would have made more sense considering his reaction. Oh, come on! They're seriously having Tails not know what sarcastic means? Seriously? It's disappointing seeing that even over 50 issues in, the genius Fox is still being portrayed as the brain-dead idiot of the group. And Chuck isn't even honest with him telling the truth. He just wasted time by saying that it means Sonic is a lot on his mind. And Tails just takes it at face value and believes him. Sonic is told to put on some headphones and dumb-looking goggles that are pointless, and runs off so they can measure his speed. And we cut to Chuck going to Sally for help. Sally says that his idea is brilliant. Because Metropolis is too crowded for some unexplained reason, Knothole will be the ideal place for the Robians to live in for their colony. I like how Amy is happy for them, although her saying completely after that rules makes it sound stilted. Sonic says that he'll just have to okay the move with his dad, and reassures Chuck that King Acorn is a righteous monarch who will totally agree to this. I'm guessing he arbitrarily won't because of crystal paranoia. Minutes later, Sonic discovers that Sally and Chuck left to petition the king, and Sonic complains about everyone trying to go out and change the world without him, feeling left out. As I expected, the king said no, it's because I guess he doesn't trust the Robians for being robots, to not plan against his kingdom as a united colony. I'm surprised we didn't even get to see the king's response. We see a crystal statue that was once Kodos being stood next to by some wardens, and after we see Snively listening in on the wardens recapping the whole story pointlessly, Chuck complains about his technology for measuring Sonic's speed being ruined, and nags Sonic for running blindly and not paying attention to the test. But what do you have to pay attention to? He's just told to run. Then after Sonic spin dashes along the water for some more of that speed measuring, he's approached by Rotor and says to more conveniently summarize it for the audience that Rotor wants him to look for Rotor's parents, who have been missing since the whole mess with Robotnik started, when the princess told him no. First off, I thought that Rotor's solo story showed us him reuniting with his family. Even if they were brainwashed by a neutron bomb and ended up stranded on an iceberg, so they weren't missing since all the way back then.
And second, I'm sure Sally only said that because the king forced her to, either that or she thinks he's too valuable to be allowed to go on a journey by himself, when he already did that. Sonic reassures Rotor that he knows how he feels and he'll help, which is confusing contrast to how he responded at first, saying he was taking time out of his day to do it. I was expecting him to say no. It makes sense as a continuation of his bad mood. Sally is told that there's no way they'll be able to have a hospital up and running in 2 days. Good thing no one in Knothole will have any injuries in that time. Did Eggman knock down the hospital in Robototropolis because he thought he wouldn't need it anymore? Jeffrey also tells Sally that there's no way to have a man-at-arms on every street corner to protect the Robians from crazed mobs. Okay, that last thing makes me think it's more Sally's idea than the King's, because the King doesn't care what happens to robots, Robian or not. Besides, well, they're Robians. I mean, they have tougher metal skin. I mean, how much damage would crazed mobs be able to actually do to them anyways? I was really worried when Sonic was coming in to talk to Sally that she'd snap at him from the sheer stress of being told her plans can't come through by both the Doctor and Jeffrey, but fortunately she kept her cool. Sonic appeals to her emotional side by telling her that she should know how it feels to want to find her parents, and Sally explains that she also knows about duty and sacrifice, telling him to look at their city in ruins. As I expected, her logic is that she needs Rotor's technological skills to fix things. Thing is, there's also Uncle Chuck, and we've seen Dr. Quack is somehow an inventor too. I like how Jeffrey looked like he was sympathetic to Sonic as he walked away in disappointment. It makes him more sympathetic. Then Sonic is told, let's see how you hold up in an artificial environment. He must really trust his friends to not be really uncomfortable with being experimented on like a lab rat. What is he, Johnny Test? Sonic shows that he's still resentful of Chuck for telling him that his parents were dead. And normally I'd understand this just fine, but he acted like he forgave him in front of Tails earlier. So was he lying straight to his face? Well, he didn't technically lie. All he did was say that Tails was a brick. But still, I thought they resolved this. Before Chuck could have a chance to make excuses, Sonic starts a task for him by running, while once again reflecting back on the past. He remembers how bored he was a few hours ago from being forced to sit on a dumb council instead of actually taking advantage of his special abilities, remarking that he should petition to rename the town to Dullsville. I can imagine a thrill-seeking hero like Sonic who had a very difficult time being okay with adjusting to a boring normal life again after saving the world, finding it depressing and unfulfilling. After Rosie shows him some kids pretending to be on an exciting adventure, Sonic tells her not to say the word adventure. I hate to say it, but everything stinks now that Robotnik's gone. Again, I completely understand him being this way. In fact, I'm getting excited now. Look at how Scourge complained about his world being boring because everything's just too cushy around here. It's like the natural, happiest state of being a Sonic is to be a hero fighting a villain, because that way he can have the most satisfying time having thrills to enjoy himself with, while also enjoying a sense of proper fulfillment and being praised for being a hero. While Scourge, with no evil Robotnik, had to settle with being a punk and getting his thrills from legal means, like beating up harmless cleaning robots. That's gotta be unsatisfying. Obviously he yearns for Sonic's old position in life because it wasn't boring, but by this point he's too proud of and attached to his badass criminal reputation that he'd feel awkward for becoming a hero, even though he could easily do that by traveling to another dimension, and then he'd get the life he really wants. Is this what Sonic wants to do now deep down? Go back to being a hero, even if the world as a whole suffers without him? Sonic is the anti-hero, a contrast to Mario, so I love him having this selfish villain side to him. Makes him more interesting and believable as a character instead of just a pure goody-goody Gary Stu. A lot of fans actually wonder if Sonic needs Eggman because of this, and this issue is actually deconstructing that, with Rosie responding to his Scourge-esque comment by saying, "What? Sonic, are you feeling alright?" Sonic explains that, at least when Buttnik was still alive, it felt like I was making a difference. Now I feel like my hands are tied but my shoelaces aren't. I'm guessing that last bit is just a weird metaphor because he clearly doesn't have shoelaces. I like how Rosie is sympathetic, saying stuff like, "That's not a good combo for you." She's a caring mother figure, that's why I like her so much. Even if she doesn't get much development, I already like her more than some of the Freedom Fighters. Why is Rosie's text in a different font here? It's jarring. She explains that when she was younger, her cousin and Sally's mentor, Jalala, used to tell her one important thing: the only difference is the one you make. Somehow, Sonic understands this pseudo-philosophical bullshit and is cheered up by this nonsense for the sake of the plot. But I thought this whole Rosie scenario was a flashback to a few hours ago. Why was he still mad at Chuck then? Somewhere close to the Gulag, Snively's previous army of egg boss is actually taken advantage of finally, woken up because a remote control radio signal emits from beneath Snively's thumb. Wait, how did he get that under his thumb when he was trapped in a cell the whole time? And apparently Nagus is their new master. Huh? I mean, he couldn't have reprogrammed them to think that, because he's been trapped in a cell the whole time. Chuck tells Sonic that he thinks that if he had known his parents were still alive, he would have never stopped to think clearly until they were free. Because it was bad enough he'd been worrying about Uncle Chuck until he freed him. Apparently having a few more roving relatives would have been too much to bear. Eggman would have used his emotions against him. Sonic decides to hug him to forgive him, because it's all part of making a difference. I guess he's using Rosie's advice to try to do good deeds, even in a small way that only affects one person. But come on, the comic isn't seriously trying to have me believe that that's the only reason this is bothering him, is it? Sonic is bored. That's not just gonna go away. It's not about making a difference, otherwise he wouldn't have said that line. Sonic then gets called up after seeing the sky get covered in yellow clouds with a silhouetted airship above him, and he's told to come over right away. I'm confused. He's asked where he's been and if his communicator was broken, and Sonic seems to lie and say that it's fixed now. What, did he ditch it a while ago? And then the story says that the next issue will be about Khan. Don't spoil it for me. They would have bought the next issue anyways, and this isn't even a good incentive because nobody knows who Khan is yet. This story, written by Carl Bullers, shows a more human and believable side to Sonic, as he spends the whole story in a mood, being stressed out and worrying over things, like a realistic person actually would do, instead of not caring about anything at all. So I actually kind of like that. It's refreshing. The story's theme was basically centered around slightly deconstructing how Sonic was enjoying fighting Robotnik, and now he doesn't have the thrill from that anymore. This is even reflected in the name of the story, Running to Stand Still. A little pretentious, but we've come a long way from naming every story after puns. I also really liked that Snively finally got to use his Egg Robe army for some interesting conflict, and I was worried that they'd been wasted in the Antoine Solo story. Even if Snively actually being able to do this at all wasn't explained. How could he get in contact with Nagus to make a deal from his cell? I thought Ixis was defeated. How did he recover from that? Also, the constant experimenting on Sonic to pointlessly measure his speed got off-putting and creepy, annoying. He's not a lab rat. But in general, there were a lot of good moments in the story, but I guess I was just dragged down by the somber tone. It's not its fault though. We were supposed to feel sorry for Sonic here.